Guten Tag. Today we are going to, and I am going to demonstrate for you the pattern that occurs for adjective endings that are attributive adjective endings. Now, I know that can be quite confusing, and you often wonder, what is the ending of the adjective, and how can I place that? So I've come up with we'll call it a love poem, and we will deconstruct this love poem in order to demonstrate to you the pattern in the adjective endings. Now, a few things that we're going to want to keep in mind as we are doing this. Remember, in German, all nouns have a gender. Masculine is der, feminine is die, neuter is das, and if there are plural, if there's plural something, that is die as well. So there's der, die, das, and die. So masculine, feminine, neuter, and plural. And another thing that we're going to want to keep in mind is that in German, the noun and what is around the noun changes depending on how it functions in the sentence. Let's take, for example, the first line of my love poem, Der kalte Tee ist auf dem Tisch, the cold tea stands on the table, or the cold tea is on the table. Now, how does the cold tea function in that sentence? The cold tea is the subject of the sentence. And if you'll remember, the changes that happen to the subject of the sentence, called the nominative case, get the nominative case changes or no changes. Now, so if we think about the drink as not the subject of the sentence, so for example, I drink the cold tea. The cold tea is the direct object. And remember that in German, the changes that happen to direct objects are called the accusative case changes. Another function of the drink, in this case the tea, we'll demonstrate first with a dative case. Now, there are a few reasons that one might something might get the dative case changes. Either it's an indirect object, the person to or for whom the action is being done, or it is the object of a dative preposition. And if we look here, mit, if you'll remember, is a dative preposition. And if we ever see a dative preposition, mit happens to be one of the dative prepositions, the dative case change happens to the object here. So we will see in every, we'll call it a stanza, in every portion, in every stanza of my love poem, the drink is functioning differently. So in the first stanza always, the first group of three, the drink is functioning as the subject, or it is in the nominative case. Now, in the second stanza, you will see the drink is always a direct object. And the changes that happen to direct objects are called the accusative case changes. Now, and in the third stanza, of every line, the drink is in the dative case. And in this case, because of, once again, the dative preposition mit. And so we're always going to want to pay attention to, in each stanza, the function of the drink. The function of the drink. How is the drink functioning? Now, as we continue analyzing my love poem, you'll see that there are groups of 3 stanzas with each a different drink. And in this group of 3 stanzas, the drink is der Tee, tea. And so this will be demonstrating masculine things. Der Tee. Now, if we look at the second group of 3 stanzas right here, we'll see that the drink is Cola. And that's die Cola. In the next group of 3 stanzas, here we have the drink being beer, demonstrating neuter items, neuter nouns. The beer, das Bier, is neuter. Now, the fourth group of 3 stanzas demonstrate plural drinks, the drinks, die Getränke. Now I'll give you something to think about when you are looking at each stanza as you analyze this beautiful love poem that I've written for you. I would like you to see that in the first line of every stanza, around the word cold, in the first line of every stanza is some form of the plus an adjective. And then you can see the ending of the adjective is e. So for example, der kalte Tee ist auf dem Tisch. The adjective ending is e. That's if it's a subject or in the nominative case. Now, if we go down to the next stanza, that same first line, the cold tea functions as a direct object. So, ich stelle den kalten Tee auf den Tisch. Now, you'll see the ending of the adjective there, en, is when you have the accusative form of the plus an adjective, and there you have the en ending. So the ending is the important thing here to analyze. And so if we go down to the third stanza, and on the first line of the stanza, you will see that the cold drink, some form of the, dem, and then cold, and then the en ending here is what you're going to want to pay attention to. Ich gehe mit dem kalten Tee ins Kino. Here, the drink functions in the dative case, again, because of the dative preposition mit. Now, I would like to invite you to go through this entire poem and circle the ending of cold. I always have some form of drink and always the same adjective, cold, kalt. Now, I want you to go in every single line, I want you to go and circle the ending of cold. So for in this instance, it's just an E ending. In this instance, ein kalter Tee ist auf dem Tisch. It's just an ER ending. Now I would like to invite you to go through the whole piece and fill in the endings here. So we have three separate tables that you will use. You will see some form this first table, and that's always number one. That's always the first line of each stanza. Some form of the plus an adjective. So, for example, der kalte Tee steht auf dem Tisch. Ich stelle den kalten Tee auf dem Tisch. Auf den Tisch, Entschuldigung. Now, in the dative case, the third stanza always, but the first line, ich gehe mit dem kalten Bier ins Kino. So you'll see there are three separate tables. There's some form of the plus an adjective. There's some form of an ein word. Now that can be a possessive adjective like mein, dein, sein, or ein or kein plus an adjective. So for example, when we look at the second line, the second table here, you'll look at the second line of each stanza, and you will see as a subject, a cold beer, ein cold tea, talking about tea, der. Ein kalter Tee ist auf dem Tisch. Or I place a cold tea on the table. Ich stelle einen kalten Tee auf den Tisch. Or in the dative case, ich gehe mit einem kalten Bier ins Kino. And this third table, you will see, is just the adjective endings. Now, if you've seen things from me before, you will notice that the endings of the adjectives, if it's just an adjective, will resemble the form or the mnemonic device that I've given you. Rese, nese, Mr. Man. Rese, nese, Mr. Man. You will see that. So if you go to the third line, this third table with just an adjective is always the third line of each stanza. And so you would say, if you would see, for example, cold tea is on the table. Kalter Tee ist auf dem Tisch. Or if you want to say, I place cold tea on the table. Ich stelle kalten Tee auf den Tisch. Or I go with cold tea into the movies. Ich gehe mit kaltem Tee ins Kino. Okay, now after you've analyzed my beautiful love poem, and you've filled out your tables, you will see that there is a pattern that you can memorize if that's what you want to do. You can understand that these adjectives and the adjective endings will come slowly, but if you wanted to memorize a pattern, you will see something that might help you out here for with some form of the, der, die, das, den, die, das, or dame, der, dame, den. Some form of the before an adjective. You will see the endings here. And I kind of remember that as this one I remember as kind of like a rook of a castle. And if you remember that shape in the rook of a castle, you can remember the en endings. Or what goes on inside, so maybe the state of Oklahoma, for example, those are e endings for the adjectives. So if you have some form of the before the adjectives, it'll look kind of like a rook of a castle for the en, and kind of like Oklahoma for the e ending, if you want to remember the pattern. Now, if you want to remember the pattern, you'll notice that if you want to notice the pattern for an ein word before an adjective, you will see the same pattern for en endings. So kind of the rook of a castle, if you see that, you can memorize that if you would like for the en endings. That could be helpful. And then remembering the endings for just an adjective, you might notice, or you will notice, after have had that mentioned to you, you will notice that there are that the endings for that, for no adjective, nothing before the adjective, it resembles raise, naise, Mr. Man.